Alright guys, welcome to Tales from the 90s. Last week we were in July of 1997. This week we're going to go back exactly 7 years. We're going to go back to July of 1990. Let's go.
Tales from the 90s never die. In our hearts they testify. VCRs and mixtape spins, where every tale begins. Tales from the Crypt, marathons, wrestling wars and morning yawns. Play kickball in the street, man, those days can't be beat. Tales from the 90s never die.
Yeah, it wasn't on purpose, and like, because I randomly choose when the months and years that I do. And the funny thing is next episode is actually going to be in July too. This must be our July months. Just me hoping for the warmer weather because it's been so cold. It's actually in the 50s today for once. But anyway, this is episode number 20. I can't believe it. Yeah, I've done 20 of these plus 5 bonus episodes. Speaking of that, I know I've been talking about it for a while, but the bonus episode of the top 50, my top 50 Nickelodeon shows of all time actually is getting ready to come out now. Like, I'm recording this Monday, so by the time you see this, it'll be out already. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. Again, it's my list. Hopefully don't get the copyright strikes because I use theme music in it. Put a lot of work into that, so if you guys could give that a watch if you're into Nickelodeon from the 90s especially. It's not just the 90s, but it's mostly the late 80s, very early 2000s, just kind of just the top, like I said, my top 50 list. Anyway, like I said, we're in July 1990 right now, going back 7 years from our last episode. I was 6 years old at this time, and I'd actually done June 1990 already back on episode 6, so this is the month following that. And of course, I talked in that one about I just finished kindergarten and was living with my Granny and Papaw Jesse in Newtown, and I'll get into more of living with them and what they're like. If you don't know me, you don't know what my grandparents are like. Obviously, for those that do, which is mostly the ones that watch this, you'll enjoy some of those memories. But first, we want to get to our commercials, and this week I've got actually two. They're like 5-minute videos, so it's not going to be too long. But the first one we're going to go to is from July 1st, and their commercials, I believe this is ABC. I don't know what city, but they're from an episode of Mr. Belvedere. The thing was like a Sunday night. And then we're going to actually do some retro commercials from 1990. I don't know the month, but I know they're 1990, and they're from Cincinnati. They are on Fox 19. So some local, some more local Cincinnati commercials, because obviously that's where I'm from. That's, the commercials I would have seen the most. So let's go to those now. All right, let's check out these commercials from July 1st of 1990.
When you rinse first with Plax,
I remember Plax. Doubt they're still around
normal
anymore.
everyday brushing takes on a whole new meaning. Plax, clinically shown to remove more
Sorry about my
plaque than
stupid
brushing
phone. I
alone.
forgot to turn it off.
Everywhere you look, there's a reason to use Visine. That's why there are now 4 different Visines to get the red out and provide just the relief you need, no matter what causes the irritation. So now, look no further than Visine.
I can't never use Visine because I can't stand anything in my eyes for eye drops. Of course, July baseball season.
Like the Legacy,
Using baseball here to.
with a power-hitting 16-valve, 130-horsepower engine. The options of civilized four-wheel drive and
Civilized four-wheel drive, not just four-wheel drive.
That baby is out of here. Factory to dealer cash
Subaru.
incentives and selected models to qualifying dealers means you could save hundreds on a Subaru.
Mr. Belvedere. I never watched the show. These commercials aired during this, and this was actually the last season of Mr. Belvedere.
How long will the flavor of
I remember Carefree.
bubble gum last?
I didn't like it. The sugar-free gums.
Those three blips and
I don't think Carefree exists anymore either.
till pigs fly. Cavity fighting carefree bubble gum.
I definitely remember the flavor didn't last. That looks good. Is it done? Nope. Ha.
A1
Yep.
is how
I can use off-brand steak sauces, but A1 is definitely the best.
I think I'm in love.
Who now?
That goddess on the raft.
I remember this commercial.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Watch and learn.
All you need is Dr. Pepper to get women, apparently. Of course, if we're back in the Marky Flo days, you open the Dr. Pepper real quick, throw it down the steps before he catches you drinking his Dr. Pepper.
Never underestimate the doctor.
Dr. Pepper Blackberry is good, though.
Hey, excuse me, Doc. Are you
Although right now I'm drinking
food?
Coke Orange
I feel like
Cream.
I could just dive right into that bowl of sugar and scoop up a big heaping spoonful and dump it all over my cereal, but do I need to do that? I mean, do I need those calories? And the taste of Equal is going to make me just as happy.
Not a
Equal
good sweetener.
tastes like real sugar because Equal is
I think my
made
mom
with
used that.
I can save a few calories here,
My wife
a few
uses
calories
Splenda,
there.
which actually isn't that bad.
I can have ice cream. Maybe.
Probably the closest thing I've tasted to tasting like actual sweetener on a sugar. Or on a oh, Dick Tracy.
Crime Stoppers everywhere are winning McDonald's $40 million Dick Tracy game.
Well, I remember
and
that.
winning big, like Ethel Cunningham, who won $1 million.
if these
Philip
people
Rebels,
actually
who won
won, or if they're just plants.
$100,000. And James Hare, who won $25,000. You could be next, because there are still crimes to solve and criminals to catch.
One of my
Millions
all-time
of
favorite
cash and
movies,
food
Dick Tracy.
prizes to win. So hurry
It's so
to
cheesy,
Dick
but-
Tracy headquarters.
Of course, I think Burger King had the Dick Tracy watches.
Cheers to the 4th of July with a night of comedy. Give me a seat. First, it's feeding time.
Did you have to do that with me too, Dad?
No, Ben, we had to stop you from gnawing your foot off.
Growing pains. Then it's an all-new comedy.
Never watched
Fashion
Growing
models
Pains.
are very
A lot I've
cool.
never watched.
So is Big Bird.
Beanpole,
And
never heard of
fireworks
that.
on Doogie Howser.
Never
a
watched
night of
Doogie
comedy
Howser either, but
Wednesday.
he was popular with everybody.
Hi, I'm Rick Dees.
Into the night starring Rick Dees. He's trying to change the way you look at late night TV.
Honey, you gotta come see
Never heard of
this.
that one either. I know Rick Dees from Countdown.
You're so neat.
And we got a Pepsi commercial.
I don't usually pour my heart out like this. I'm mesmerized.
I think it is Ben Savage from the Wonder Years, of course.
Will never
Not Brett.
be quiet.
Fred Savage. Ben Savage is obviously
With your
Boy Meets World, his brother. Can't believe I said that.
I feel like a Pepsi.
And for a while, Fred
What's
Savage
the
was like
quickest way for
one of
a
the
remarkable
number one
new car to
actors.
establish a track record? You establish a track record. The Subaru Legacy, no other car has proven itself so quickly.
I can fix our heartburn.
Yeah, it's meatloaf.
This is advanced formula Alka-Seltzer.
Alka-Seltzer. You didn't have this Marky Flo meatloaf. It's probably got 90 pounds of mushrooms in it.
It is.
Are you two taking Alka-Seltzer?
Advanced
The woman who
formula
played
Alka-Seltzer.
George's mom in Seinfeld. I can't remember her name. She's hilarious.
Martin Sheen, Christopher Walken.
Oh, it's the Dead Zone.
I have had a vision.
Stephen King's masterpiece of terror. Somewhere between murder and madness is the Dead Zone.
Oh, cool. Well, there's the end of Mr. Belvedere.
Tuesday, kick off your holiday the
But,
all-American way with
yeah, the
Tony
Dead
and Angela
Zone.
on Who's
I
the
have
Boss.
the series,
Then
which I
Kevin
really
comes to
love.
the rescue
The
when
movie's
Winnie
good too. I actually like
becomes
the series
stage struck in
better.
a school play on the Wonder
But
Years.
obviously
And
the
the
book's
holiday
really good
celebration
too. Stephen
continues
King.
with Roseanne working for a boss half her age. After Christine shows her unswerving love for Coach Tuesday.
Roseanne and Coach.
Now stay tuned for the
Two of my
ABC
favorites.
Sunday night movie next.
Yeah, I'd definitely like, come on, get over Mr. Belvedere. I don't like you. Get me to the Dead Zone. Anyway, that's the commercials. What we're about to see here is some retro commercials from Cincinnati. I'm not exactly sure the month, but they're 1990. I know that. So, right year. And again, that's where I'm from, so these aired on Fox 19. Here we go. Again, I don't watch these beforehand, it's just so I can give my reactions on them. So if they're boring, sorry. If they're not, if they're entertaining, then good. Thriftway, man, I remember that store.
There's nothing tastier than fresh country fruits and vegetables from Thriftway. You save money and
They don't
time
exist
because at
anymore,
Thriftway,
but
produce is weighted at checkout lane.
like I remember going there.
Red Delicious
That
apples,
and Biggs,
3-pound bag,
if
69
you're from
cents a pound.
Cincinnati.
Fresh grade A fryer breast, 99 cents a pound.
So
Wow.
save money and
Chicken
time.
breast for
Shop
99
Thriftway
cents a
every
pound.
day.
Anyway, Biggs and Thriftway and Kroger's. Cincinnati staples. Only Kroger still exists. There's Johnny Bench.
The same as customers' hour. Of course, with the way people live today, they'd
Fifth Third Bank.
all the time. Fifth Third knows that. That's why
one of the biggest banks in Cincinnati. I believe they still exist.
And they're right here inside Kroger store.
And there's Kroger's.
Car loan, open a checking account.
That's the way a store used to look. Now they're so crowded and
How about a free sample?
all this other stuff.
I like
And
some days better than others.
that's what a store looked like, a store.
Service banking 7 days a week.
Right now at ProCare in Ohio, our highest quality oil
Hey, it's
$17.95.
I can't think of his name, but he played Radar from MASH.
A $5 coupon for full service Ohio Super Gasoline. Don't worry, you'll get a dry one.
ProCare Advantage number 17.
I don't remember the store.
After the other car repair places
ProCare Advantage.
Hello, ProCare.
ProCare stays open to fix your car weekdays till 9, Saturdays, and Sundays.
Am I following you around?
Well,
Your first trip to Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful city, lots of tradition, great sports, great chili.
Chili.
It makes
Oh.
Cincinnati famous.
You had to ask her.
Cincinnati recipe chili. One taste and you'll know what
Cincinnati recipe chili. It's like the off-brand of Skyline.
True one-of-a-kind taste of Cincinnati.
I call it the sour chili because it has like a soury taste to it almost.
Get ready, Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky.
Although the spice mix I use to make Skyline.
Returning to the Shrine Oasis, Loveland, Ohio, this Saturday and Sunday.
Loveland, Ohio.
Hundreds of shotguns, rifles, handguns.
I was hoping that was going to be a Skyline or at least a Gold Star commercial. Come on.
Got any guns to sell? Bring them to the show. Thousands of buyers will be there. Don't forget, that's Bill Goodman's Gun and Knife Show at the Shrine
The
Oasis,
Gun and
Loveland,
Knife
Ohio.
Show.
Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 9 to 4. Tell a buddy, bring a friend, and buy, sell, trade. Don't miss this big show.
Inside
Radar
the
again.
chamber, it's so cold, humans can only work
Again,
for
I
5
can't think of
minutes
his
at a
name.
time. So we've sent in experts.
I don't remember him being on so many local Cincinnati
Ohio
commercials.
Super with ice guards can stop fuel line freeze. Okay, guys, start her up. Well, there it is. Ohio Super with ice guard stops fuel line freeze, and it's guaranteed. You go or Ohio pays the tow. No dry gas can make that claim. Uh-oh. Security, Burton's is driving again.
I don't remember Ohio. But yeah, that's just a few local commercials there. The big one is the Cincinnati chili one. Which, like I said, they actually sell that at Walmart. The can is called Cincinnati style chili, and it kind of tastes sour. Like, to me, I don't know. Just that's the way it tastes to me. Hope you guys enjoyed some of those commercials. Wasn't the most exciting commercial one ever because obviously, it's older quality. But you never know what you're gonna get, and I don't look at those beforehand. I like to kind of just react on the fly, like I do with our our Saturday morning cartoon or our Nickelodeon lineups. But this week I want to start with TV. I have some notes here. Going on at the time, there was a network called Movie Time, which I don't remember. It was started in 1987. It was basically made to show like movie trailers and some entertainment news. Anyway, they ended up being rebranded as E! Entertainment, which of course, if anybody watches cable these days or watched it during my time, everybody knows the E! Network was like super it was like one of the big ones. They had the Howard Stern show on there. They had all those gossip things, which I didn't watch most of the E! Network, as you can tell. But I think the freaking Kardashians started on that, so I guess they shouldn't be celebrated too much if they started that show. But anyway, yeah, that's just the E! Network is. I actually had to look to make sure because I haven't had cable in years. They're still on, so somebody's still watching them. But for our TV, we've been recently doing like spotlights on different shows. This week I want to do one on Friday the 13th, the series, which you see right here. I actually have the complete series and this lovely craptastic case that they put these things in. That like the case itself just comes out, and it's sometimes the discs don't sit in the thing right, and it's cracked in places. Just they didn't put a lot into this. But it is a good series. And I actually haven't watched the whole thing yet or seen all the features on it. But I will. But it's a very good series if you've never seen it. And you hear Friday the 13th, right off the bat, if you don't know anything about this series, it has nothing to do with Jason Voorhees. It was anyway. Getting into the particulars of the show, it ran from October '87 to May of 1990. So actually, the month or 2 months before this, for this episode I'm doing, it ended its run. 3 seasons, 72 episodes, and they were all syndication. So whatever local city you were in, they were on some point. You know, with syndication, you never know. They could be on middle of the day. These usually aired later at night, though. Sometimes in prime time, but mostly, overnight, like 11 o'clock, midnight, sometimes 1. It just depends. But a really good show. And the connection and why it has the name is because Frank Mancuso Jr., who had produced Friday the 13th since the second one, did this show. And it was originally going to be called The 13th Hour, but they decided to, because... the 13th, Friday the 13th, they decided to just go ahead and call it that to get more viewers. And it worked. And then, basically it was to bring more viewers into it to watch it for the first time, because it's hard to get people to start a new show, So, once they watched it, if they weren't going to be disappointed that Jason wasn't in it. By the way, still waiting on the freaking Jason prequel series that seems to be forever in limbo. That's the nowadays stuff. But anyway... yeah, like I said, it never had Jason in it. There was rumors that the last episode was going to have Jason in it, or the mask was going to be in there as a joke or something, but they never did it, and nobody's ever really said whether that's true or not, so don't know for sure. Anyway, it's about these two cousins, Mickey and Ryan. They inherit their uncle's antique shop, and these cousins actually hadn't even met each other before, but... the guy that played Ryan is John D. LeMay, and he actually played the main male lead in Friday the 13th Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell. The one that's known as the Switching Bodies, and not the best one. It may be the worst Friday the 13th, actually. But it's still enjoyable. The worst Friday the 13th is better any day than the stupid remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. Anyway, like I said, the two cousins, what they didn't realize is, they inherited this place, and they're like, okay, let's just sell all these antiques, sell the shop so we can be done with it, because, they didn't want to run an antique shop. Well, come to find out, through an associate of their uncle, this guy's name is Jack, find out that all those objects are actually cursed. It turned out that their uncle, made some kind of pact with the devil or something. So now they got to go back getting all these objects back and buying them back from people, and of course, the objects are doing all kinds of different things. They're haunted, they're killing people, they're causing people to kill people, they're all kinds of stuff. So they gotta investigate all that. And Ryan was replaced in the 3rd season. He turned into a child in an episode, and then they brought in another guy. I can't remember his name. I haven't seen many episodes from that season, but yeah, just a really good show. If you're, it's basically like you got the main story, and then each week, the object does something different, so you never know what it's going to be. Definitely one of the first episodes, or first series that dealt with that, the looking for artifacts type of thing that you see on other shows, like you kind of see that on X-Files or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They weren't the main point of those shows, but they did a lot of that, having to find the cursed objects. But definitely one you should check out. I don't know where it's streaming. It's probably on YouTube. Not exactly sure. I don't know. Just look it up. But or get the series like I did. The packaging sucks, but it's actually got all the episodes there, and so it's got bonus features. Not too many bonus features, because series from especially the early 90s, it's not like they had a ton of stuff to go with it, and really, like I said, it's just like a cheap packaging way to get the series out. I think it was only like $20 or $20 or $30. I got it at Walmart. Not bad. Definitely a great show you should check out. Of course, there was a Nightmare on Elm Street series that actually had Freddy in it. That was really good too. But and I hadn't seen that until a few years ago, actually. This one I remember watching in the 90s. the theme song was just creepy. I love that theme song. But anyway, the only movie that really came out this month that I remember is Problem Child. If any of you remember that, or the sequel, Junior was a little freaking brat. And John Ritter played the dad in that, of course, mostly known from Three's Company, but horror fans will definitely know him as the evil uncle from Bride of Chucky. Of course, he was in, he played the store manager in Sling Blade 2, but I mean, everybody knows who John Ritter is. I don't have to explain him. Definitely, I still remember the day that he died. They reported that like it was like huge news, because it of course was. But yeah, Problem Child, that's just one of those movies that, like, if you've never seen it, just, he is a brat and he's doing everything he can to not stay with these people and just be as bad as he can. Just a hilarious movie. Like I said, there's a sequel to that too. But right now we're going to get to our... I was going to do something besides Nickelodeon, since I just done that huge Nickelodeon episode. But of course, being July, there was no new Saturday morning cartoons, so it was hard to find a lineup. So I ended up doing a Nickelodeon lineup again. This is a weekday lineup. This is actually Tuesday, July 17th of 1990. And like I said, this new site that I found actually lists the stuff that was on Nick at Night as well. So we're actually starting at midnight, once I get this pulled up here. I'm going to start off with My Three Sons. Definitely one of the older shows that have ever been on Nick at Night. I never watched My Three Sons, but the next one I did, Mr. Ed. Man, I love that show was so hilarious. Not your normal animal type show, you know, like Lassie and Flipper, which are both in my top 50. Mr. Ed never aired on actual. See, when I made my list for the Nickelodeon, it was the regular, you know, hours between like 6 a.m. and 8, 9, 10, depending on the time of year, or, you know, whenever Nickelodeon did it. I didn't include anything in Nick at Night, basically, or anything that only ran there. So Mr. Ed didn't make the list, but if I had a classic TV list, Mr. Ed would definitely be high on it. Make Room for Daddy. Never heard of that one. The Many Loves of Dobie Gills, or Gillis, however you say. I never watched that. I remember seeing commercials, and I know it had Bob Denver, the guy who played Gilligan, in it. I never watched it. Bewitched, I would watch from time to time. One of my wife's favorite shows. The Donna Reed Show, never watched. Fernwood Tonight, heard of it, but never watched it. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, not my type of show. I didn't watch it. Same with the Patty Duke Show. And then we got My Three Sons and Mr. Ed again. Make Room for Daddy again. Anyway, now we're starting with the Nickelodeon lineup. Lassie, of course, made my list. The famous dog, which I'd found out, you know, the dog, it was a female dog, but it was always played by a male dog. And there'd been 5 Lassies over the years. And then we've got Spartacus and the Sun Beneath the Sea. I've never heard of that. But here we go at 7 a.m., Mr. Wizard's World. My favorite with the science type shows. You know, between that, you had Beakman's World, and you also had Bill Nye the Science Guy. Mr. Wizard was always my guy. I remember always watching this, and whenever we had cable, or like I said, during this time I would stay with my granny, always watch this before school. Of course, it's July, there was no school, but it would still be on early in the morning. Then at 7:30 a.m. we've got Inspector Gadget. It's like 7 a.m. Mr. Wizard's World on, and then you got to go to school, and all the kids that didn't have to go to school, it's time for Inspector Gadget. Obviously on my list, very high up. Can't say enough good things about Inspector Gadget. Didn't really like the live action movies they came out with, but Inspector Gadget is a classic cartoon. Then at 8 we got Heathcliff. I've got some of these theme songs stuck in my head because I've been doing that bonus episode. Heathcliff, that one's stuck in my head too. Then at 8:30 a.m. Don't Just Sit There. I've never heard of that. But then 9 o'clock is Lassie, which we was just on at 6. But then we start Nick Jr. at 9:30. Maya the Bee. I never watched that. But one I did watch that was on from 10 to 11 was Eureka's Castle. That's definitely on my list. It's strange to come to find out that R.L. Stine was actually the head writer of the show and created the characters on it. Like, that blew my mind. Like, I didn't realize that R.L. Stine was involved with that. But yeah, definitely all the different segments in the castle, just classic. And then speaking of classic, I actually watched a couple episodes this the other day. Sharon, Lois, and Bram's The Elephant Show. Da Skinnamarink Dinky Dink. That song. It's a weird show. It's about these 3 Canadian singers, and they, just different topics of different episodes, but they would always be singing, and the one I was watching, the woman was like, I can't remember exactly what she was saying. She was like, "Don't put beans in your ear," and the kid was on the phone trying to not listen to the woman just singing over and over, "Don't put beans in your ear." I don't know why anybody would put beans in their ear, but apparently they were warning against that on there, so if you ever put beans in your ear, don't blame them. Next up was Fred Penner's Place. I never watched that a whole lot. I remember it was kind of like the Elephant Show, but I don't remember a whole lot about it. But then at noon, we got The World of David the Gnome. Very high on my list. The theme song is so great. And just the whole message of the show, and just how kind and gentle everything is. It's like perfect Nick Jr. show. And of course, I didn't know till later on it was actually originally a Spanish cartoon. Up next, 12:30, Adventures of Little Chihuahua. What is it? Combine a Chihuahua with a koala? The Adventures of Little Koala. I should know by now. If I can't talk right, I should stop and get a drink. Anyway, I've never seen that show. Or the Noozles. Then we got Maya the Bee again. Then today's special, which I barely remember but don't remember what it's about. But then at 2:30 we start the regular Nickelodeon, because during the school year, this would be when kids start getting off school. So preschool time's over. We got Lassie again to kind of ease into the this thing gonna fall off here. I know. I guarantee this falls on the ground, it's gonna break everything. So I'm gonna put it down here. Anyway, kind of ease into it with Lassie, the kind of like a bridge between preschool and regular after school. But then when the kids get home at 3 o'clock, it's Super Sloppy Double Dare. That version didn't make my list because I just count that as regular Double Dare. Family Double Dare actually made my list higher up. I believe it was number 2. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen that episode. But Super Sloppy Double Dare was just, they put the name on it and they had more sloppiness, I guess. Of course, everybody knows Double Dare, the classic game show. Mark Summers hosted it. At 3:30 a.m., 3:30 p.m., we got Dennis the Menace, which love that cartoon. It made my list too. That and Alvin and the Chipmunks, which I don't know if it's on this list or not, but going back and listening to those theme songs that I haven't heard since probably the 90s, that was such a oh my god, I love that song. But then we've got Heathcliff again at 4. Then we've got Count Duckula, which I remember a little bit. It's another Looney Tune. The running joke on this show is how many different names can they give Looney Tunes, and how many different characters can they give their own shows. Then from 5 to 6 is Camp Nickelodeon. I can't remember that. I think I might remember it. I think it was. I got the hiccups. I think it was one of those shows where they kind of just they would show whatever, and you have like a camp theme or something. I can't remember. If I'm wrong, let me know. Then we got 6 o'clock, one of the ones that made my list, definitely. You Can't Do That on Television. One of the original first few Nickelodeon shows. The original kids skit show. Basically the predecessor to all that. It was actually out before even Mad TV. And at 6:30, Make the Grade. Don't remember that one. Then at 7, we've got Inspector the Gadget again. Inspector Gadget. Then 7:30, we got Looney Tunes on Nickelodeon. Can't ever go wrong with Looney Tunes. I could watch Looney Tunes all day long. Never get tired of it. But actually, back in 1990, that's when Nickelodeon ended, even during the summer at 8 o'clock, because then we got Nick at Night again. We got the Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, Bewitched, Green Acres. Oh, no. I only say that because, literally, I've talked about this before, every day, at some point, that freaking Green Acres song will just pop into my head, and it gets stuck in there, and for however long until I forget it again. Well, there's my reminder, and it's already starting in my freaking head. Then we got the Donna Reed Show. This is interesting. Then we got the Best of Saturday Night Live. I didn't realize they had that on Nick at Night. Then Fernwood Tonight, Rowan and Martin's Laughing, and then the Patty Duke Show. So, it was later years of Nickelodeon, towards the later 90s. Some of the stuff on TV Land I liked. A lot of the earlier stuff here, really older shows, or just stuff that I didn't really particularly care for. But anyway, that's my stumbling my way through a Tuesday night, or Tuesday whole day, like I said, stumbling my way through of a Nickelodeon lineup. And now we are going to go back, and we're going to talk about, look at what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, is living at my granny's house. Granny and Papaw Jesse, of course, they're my mom's mom and dad. Papaw Jesse passed away towards the end of the 90s, and a ton of memories at this place. Obviously, we lived there for a while, but I mean, just growing up there. I remember back when the house was blue, before they put the yellow siding on. I remember when it was blue. You might want to skip over this if you don't know me, because some of the stuff I'm talking about you're not going to realize, you're not going to even understand. But just like, I can just vividly remember so much about the place. The driveway that kind of made like the horseshoe around. The first part of it would be under pull up right by under the porch, but the main part where people normally parked was like around, and you go around the circle, and later on there'd be like a carport there. I remember the two cars that my Papaw Jesse had. The first one was a brown one. I don't remember exactly what it was, but the other one I remember vividly because it's my favorite car of all time. He had a brand new 1996 red Chevy Monte Carlo. I believe he got just prior to. So he worked at General Motors in Norwood, which is where I lived most of my childhood was in, I believe, or at least the parts I remember the most was in Norwood. But they had a GM plant there before they shut it down, and thousands of people were out of work. But I believe they gave him a pretty good retirement package from that. But I mean, still, other people that weren't retirement ages, all had to find new jobs and everything. But this car, like, I remember him giving me the CD, because that was a big thing then, the CD players in cars. But it came with a CD, the car itself came with a CD, like, here's how you do this. And I would just like listen to that at home, whenever I got a CD player, like, clean your car. Didn't have many CDs, so we listened to the car. But anyway, I love that car. I think it was the only car I've ever had, get to experience the new car smell in. But the air conditioner was so cold in the summer, like I loved that car. If I could ever like pick my own car just to have, it would definitely be that one. But yeah. Anyway, they lived in Newtown, which is in Claremont County, which is the county over from Hamilton, which is Cincinnati. 6929 Lawyer Road. And if you went there today, you wouldn't recognize this house at all, because the house isn't there anymore. And because after my granny eventually got to where she couldn't take care of herself really, it was like right when she was starting to get Alzheimer's disease, and she'd moved out. I think it was she. Sorry, I got that wrong. She did eventually move in with my Aunt Wilma and her family, but I'd gotten that wrong, the order of that. She'd actually moved into this like apartment, like didn't really like it. I wish she would have kept the house, honestly. I don't know exactly, what the reason was for moving out. I think it was because just, I think she was to be closer to them originally. Plus, that way she didn't have to keep up the house by herself. But, man, I wish that house was still there. Like I said, they completely changed not just tore the house down and built the house in another location. It's like they changed the whole layout of the whole land. You can't even recognize the land. The street, barely. But, I mean, it's just, sometimes I've been past it once or twice since then. Not since its current layout, though. But sometimes I'll go on there on Google Maps, and I don't know why it depresses me, but just, I miss the old layout. The area of land that they called the Bottoms that we always played in was like this huge, like, grassy area. And there was all these trees, and of course there was the woods beyond where I'd sit later years instead of going to school like an idiot. But then there's down in the creek. There was one story I was about to tell, but I'll tell that later when it's actually time for that. A funny story about my stepdad Steve throwing me a frisbee. But yeah, and then there's his garden he had up on this hill. And, of course, he would take me for rides on, me and Josh and then Travis later on. I don't know if he ever took Clint on him. He might have not been doing it then. But and, of course, all our cousins, too, would take us on his big tractor, which was like an orange tractor. And he'd have a little trailer hooked to it, and we'd all sit in it. Or there'd be sometimes, I remember a couple times, actually getting to sit there and drive the tractor, on his lap. That was like the ultimate. Like, I was just so amazed at the fact that, like, I was like, what happens if it don't stop? And then he, like, stood up, and there's, like, it could, like, tell you're not sitting on it, so it automatically stopped. And for some reason, that, like, blew my mind. But just even before that, I have a red tractor that was just like my grandpa's tractor, which before the orange one he had a red one, but it was like one of them pedal ones. Eventually we got a green one that looked like a John Deere, and it had a trailer on it, and we would be riding around pretending to cut the grass as he was out there cutting the grass. Man, I missed him so much. Papaw Jesse, my mom says that I was his favorite, but I always remember Josh being his favorite. I don't know. He never mistreated any of us or treated one better than the other. It just, like, it always seemed like Josh was his favorite, or I don't know. Like I said, my mom says that I was his favorite, so I don't know. But anyway, I remember him making a bow and arrow for Josh, and him and Josh would be doing that all the time. He would always be sitting in the kitchen, drinking his beer, Pabst Blue Ribbon, and listening to bluegrass on the radio. And if he wasn't doing that, and he wasn't sleeping, he was watching the Atlanta Braves on TV. That's the only thing I ever remember him watching. He'd always watch the Braves on TBS. The reason why I like the Braves to this day is because of him, because I so many memories of watching that. Like he was, I don't know if he didn't like the Reds or what it was, but he was a Braves fan. And yeah, I always remember him watching that. And like I said, most of the time was in the kitchen, at the kitchen table, listening to his bluegrass. And then Granny, they actually lived in separate bedrooms. I mean, they weren't like, how old people can get, his bedroom was downstairs, like, right, like, if you walked up the big porch, and you walk in the glass, you can go around the back to the kitchen, the back door to get in, or you could walk in the front door, which is like this big sliding glass door. There's like a dining room right as soon as you get in, but if you walk, there was a giant dining room table. If that wasn't there, you could walk like straight back into like this little cutout room that was his room. And I remember, like, especially after he died, and I stayed there with Granny for about a month after she'd had a surgery. I think she'd had a surgery. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I stayed to take care of her. But even then, and I was like a later teenager then, there was a picture of Jesus in Papaw Jesse's room that I don't know why, for some reason it scared me, and it always looked like the eyes were moving on it. I don't know, it scared me so much, like from a little kid on. But yeah, Granny lived upstairs, and of course the other room is we ended up being our room at one point. Back when it was just me during this time, me, Mom, and Josh, we would all just like share the room because that's all they had. And of course, there was also a little, there was a basement, and there's like a little apartment that I think my mom lived in at some points. My Uncle Dale, my Aunt Wilma, I think she lived there, just at different points of time. By this time, I think it was being used as like a storage thing, so I don't think, or did we? We might have lived down there then. I can't remember. I have to ask my mom if she remembers during 1990, after we'd moved out of Josh's dad's place in Kentucky, if we actually lived in that little apartment down there. Because it might have been the apartment. Later on, it became like a storage thing, and we would just go in there and just explore all the time. But that might have been we might have been living down there at the time, if I remember. Oh, and I remember the washing machine. She had one of them old-fashioned ones where it'd wash it, but then you'd have to take the clothes and run it through this wringer. And it always scared me to death because she would always tell us, don't touch it, it'll take your hand off. And I've seen the power of that thing. I think it could have crushed a hand or taken a whole hand off. But, yeah, and then just, like I said, so many memories, not just, normal, the classic memories I always talk about of Christmas and Thanksgiving and going over there. But just memories of this time of living there. Like I said, I can't remember. We might have been living in the basement. Or it could have been... No, because I remember watching TV upstairs. I think we did live upstairs. Because I remember a vivid memory of us watching Roseanne when it came on Tuesday nights. And it being like nighttime. So I'm pretty sure we did live upstairs. But I know at one point that downstairs was an apartment. Anyway. The upstairs was just... This house is so unique. Like, you go upstairs and you go right into the bathroom, which had like a small window. I think they added a lot of this stuff on later on. I know they added on the porch later on. So it was really just originally like a small farmhouse that they like built onto into this really nice house. Still, it was a small house and a simple house, but it was still nice, But anyway, these two rooms off to each side, they each had a closet that went kind of, really deep into it, and I found my Uncle Dale's old Playboys magazines and Mad magazines and stuff back there, and just all kinds of old stuff. There's so much to explore in this house. And then we had this giant stove in the living room that they eventually took out. But I remember that so vividly. I think there was a picture of Josh standing on it or something. But man, so much to explore with this. And then later on, Papaw Jesse would build a concrete shed out in the bottoms, near the edge of the woods. Oh, and there was this vine that we always swung on. It was so much fun. I think for a bonus episode, I'm actually going to read a book that I wrote. It's called Over the River and Through the Woods. It's about the experience at my granny's house. I think some of my family's read it, but I think I'll just actually read it during a podcast. If it'll be it'll be a bonus episode, and if you don't care about me or the 90s, or care about only the 90s and not my personal life, then you'll want to skip that one. But and sorry if I'm dragging too long for those that don't know me, and I'm sure you all have memories like that. I don't know, maybe some of you didn't have those memories with your grandparents. Maybe it was with a friend, or maybe it was another family member or something. But everybody has, most everybody I should say, has special memories of special places. And this was definitely one of them. If I could pick a time and place to go back to, I don't know exact year or anything, but it would just be at my granny's house during the summer, being over there at the beginning of the week, knowing I had a whole week before I went home. I remember getting up early in the mornings. I vividly remember one that was 6 in the morning, it rained the night before, but so it was like there was dew outside everywhere, and it was in the summer, but it was like it rained, so it was a little chilly in the morning, and just, I don't know, just something about that, just like the word home is like flashing in my head, that's home to me, and I'm, I don't want to say I miss that place as much as I miss my grandparents, because obviously I miss them more, but it was like that place was them. That's kind of hard to explain, and I'm not saying it's haunted or anything like that, but, it's almost like that place was Granny, that place was Papaw Jesse, and just, I'm going to move on here, because I could talk about this literally all day, and I may someday do that, but, just, yeah, if you guys got memories like that, you totally get what I'm experiencing now, and if you don't, hopefully someday you will have a place that you can, have memories like that. It could be where you're living now, later on. But we're going to get into talk a little bit about video games. Don't have a whole lot going on. The top arcade game for this month was, like almost was the whole entire year of 1990, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was like the #1 arcade game. Everybody played that. And then a game that was released for Nintendo, arcade, and Game Boy was Dr. Mario. It was sort of like a Tetris type thing, the falling block, that type of game where you got to match. It was like little pills, and you got to like match them up. And I remember famously this, somebody was playing Dr. Mario on Dr. Giggles. He came in behind the kid watching him play the game and was like fascinated by it. But yeah, Dr. Mario, definitely one of those, not thought about as like the greatest Mario games of all time, because it wasn't really played out like a Mario game, but it was still fun. One of those like time waster type games where, you just, it's not an adventure, you just basically trying to see how far you could get, what your high score could be. But one thing I want to talk about now, that I haven't been for the last few weeks, is Tales from the Crypt. Because the last few weeks they haven't been on season. But this is actually the last few episodes of season 2. Which, of course, this is my... I have the whole set, I just got out season 2. I can get the clothes right. Oh, I see what it is. This whole thing's off the track. But anyway, these Tales from the Crypt, the whole DVD set, if you can find it, they have it on Amazon, I believe. But great, obviously, me and Tales from the Crypt. If I can get that to stay up. But like I said, the last few episodes of the season, and season 2 and season 3 are known as like the prime greatest seasons. Season 1 was good too, but it was like way too short. It was only 6 episodes. But anyway, this one starts out with the episode called Lower Berth, which is from the Tales from the Crypt magazine, number 33. Well, magazine, comic book. I always called it a magazine, even though it's a comic book. But this is actually the origin story of the Crypt Keeper. You find out that his mom was, as he says in there, my mummy was the mummy. Or his mommy was the mummy, however he said it. And his dad was a Two-Face. It was like these like carnival attractions that were somehow came alive. And at the end, you see the little baby Crypt Keeper. It's like the most hilarious and cutest thing you can picture. Crypt Keeper as a baby, like he was a monster as a baby. But yeah, that's one of my favorite ones of all time. Just the origin of him and what happens with the 2 exhibits at the carnival. The next one's a really good one too, and I actually just read this one in that Tales from the Crypt Volume 1, that big book I got. It's called Mute Witness to Murder. It was in the Crypt of Terror number 18. And if you know about the EC Comics, the Crypt of Terror was changed to Tales from the Crypt because the word terror shouldn't be shown to kids. It was the start of all that crap. But this Mute Witness to Murder is about this woman, and she's celebrating her anniversary. And I'm going off the show, not the story. The story for this actually is kind of close. For a lot of them, they changed a whole lot because, they had to make it more modern. Anyway, she's celebrating her anniversary, and she happens to look out next door and sees her neighbor killing his wife, and for some reason it causes her to like go into shock and she can't talk. And her husband goes to get a doctor, and it just turns out, of course, the doctor is the killer from across the street. And he's like, I don't know what happened. She's just standing out there, and then all of a sudden she can't talk. And he goes out on the balcony and looks and can see right into his window and knows what she's seen, and like gives her a look. It's the doctor's played by Richard Thomas, which a lot of people know him from I can't think of that show now. The Waltons. I know him from playing Hank Williams Jr. in the Living Proof movie. Of course I would. But he's like the perfect character in this. Anyway, she ends up getting revenge at the end. I won't get into it too much. Next one's a really good episode too, called Television Terror. Had Morton Downey Jr. playing Horton Rivers, I think. He played like a host, kind of like he did in real life. This one's from the Haunt of Fear set number 17, which was of course hosted by the Vault Keeper. But anyway, this one about this, trashy talk show host, not exactly Jerry Springer type thing, but they're going into this haunted house and they're planning things, but it turns out the house really is haunted, and he ends up getting his in the end because he's a jerk. He's a complete jerk to everybody. And the next one is My Brother's Keeper, originally from the comic book Shock Suspense Stories number 16. This is about two conjoined twins. One's a jerk, one's a nice guy, and the jerk keeps wanting him to sign to get surgery, but the nicer one is worried about, what could happen if we get the surgery. Well, the mean brother introduces the good brother to this woman, to try to make him fall in love with her, so he'll want to go through with the surgery. And turns out, the woman he introduced is like a prostitute. He hired her to like act a certain way, and then she ends up feeling bad and telling him. So the mean brother kills her. So and then from there, the good brother like takes a bunch of pills to make him knocked out. And when they come to, the guy's like, the meaner one's like, well, what are you going to do now? You can't, if you put me in the gas chamber, because I guess that was their death penalty wherever they were at, you can't, you're going to have to put him through, and you can't kill an innocent person. And it turns out, like, right before they passed out, the good brother finally signed the paper, and they wheel him away, the bad one. And he's like, hey, I'm supposed to be attached to you. It was a great episode. My retelling of it doesn't give it justice. And then the finale is called The Secret. It's originally from the Haunt of Fear number 24. And this is just about secrets. Like, there's this family that adopt this kid. Turns out the family's secret is they're secretly vampires. But the kid has a secret as well. He's secretly a werewolf. So when they try to kill him, to drink his blood or whatever, turns out he's a werewolf. And there's a butler in it, and he's played by Larry Drake, who, if you know Tales from the Crypt, he played the evil Santa Claus in the second ever episode and all through the house from the first season. So, he's back again, playing a much nicer role in this one. But yeah, there's some great episodes there from, one of, I don't know whether I like the second or third season the best, but definitely a good run of episodes there to end their second season. Next, we'll get into music. Not too much to talk about. Of course, we got the Hot 100, the Billboard chart, not the movie. New Kids on the Block, Step by Step, was number one for 2 weeks. Plus, the week before, they were a number one, too. So that was 3 weeks total. And then one I've never heard of this person, Glenn Medeiros, with Bobby Brown. I've heard of him. Their song, She Ain't Worth It, was number one for 2 weeks. Never even heard of that song. I've never heard of Glenn Medeiros. So, if you're a fan of him, like, figure by now I would have even heard his name, but literally never. Sorry, I'm yawning. Put myself to sleep here. I've literally never heard of this person's name in my life till this morning when I looked up this stuff. But my music, the country music, the country music, the American Country Countdown, I was trying to say. Two massive songs. George Strait, Love Without End, Amen. I mean, everybody knows that song. I had that song on a tape that played at my dad's funeral. I mean, that song is so so good and so like I don't know if important is the right word. Meaningful is definitely the right word, I think. But it was number one for 4 weeks for this month. Oh, no, sorry, it was number one at the beginning of the month for 1 week, but also number one for 4 weeks back in June, making 5 weeks total, which actually at the time tied a record. It tied Dolly Parton. I think it was "Here You Come Again" from the 70s or 80s. Can't remember, but at that point, that'd been the longest, number one song in a row. And it was actually George Strait, as amazing as this is, and this is 1990, and he had a ton of number ones already. It was actually the first song to have a multiple week number one for him, which, like I said, that's kind of mind blowing to hear with some of those great songs. It's hard, but country was so competitive. Like, unlike pop, you'd see the same song number one for. It was common to see it 10 weeks, 3 or 4 months in a row even. With country, it was hard to get even 2 in a row unless it was a massive song. And, speaking of massive song, the next one, Garth Brooks' "The Dance" was number one for 3 weeks. And that was, this, I think the month after this is when he released his second album, No Fences, and of course Friends in Low Places. But "The Dance" was like, when he was starting to get bigger and bigger. He wasn't like superstar yet, but "The Dance" was that, massive song, and he always ends his concerts with that show because that's his like favorite song to do and the most important one to him. But yeah, 2 massive country songs there, "Love Without End, Amen" and "The Dance." And those songs have definitely stood the test of time. I can hear them a million times and still not get tired of them. But we're going to move on to some sports now. Of course, being July, it's baseball season, right in the middle of it. And this is 1990, so this is the year the Reds started the year at in first place, ended the year in first place. We ended up beating the Oakland A's, which were, even though we'd done so well, the A's were expected to dominate us, and we swept them in 4 games. But obviously, we were dominating the West. We had a 5.5 game lead. Of course, this is back when the 2, National League and American League were just divided into the West and the East. The Mets led the East, and the AL leaders, of course, the A's were ahead in the West, and the Blue Jays and the Red Sox were tied to lead the East. And of course, being July, the All-Star game, the American League defeated the National League 2-0, and they were in Chicago. And 2 things happened because they were in Chicago. One, during the All-Star game, it was famous for having this like really long rain delay in the 7th inning. All-Star game was on CBS then. They just showed Rescue 911 while the rain delay was going on. But the home run derby was known as like one of the worst ones of all time. Literally, you see these home run derbies, the massive 60, 80, whatever, how many home runs they have now. You probably couldn't even guess how low the total was in this. Literally 5 home runs in this whole home run derby. First of all, people said it was bad because it was daytime in Chicago, and because Chicago loves their daytime games. The home run derby always looks better at night. But the wind was the Chicago wind. It was blowing in, so only 5 home runs. I guess they were doing by league then. It wasn't like individual winners. I think the NL won 4-1. Ryan Sandberg got 3 home runs. So, just a very bad, I guess, home run derby and All-Star game. It's probably why I ain't been to Chicago in so long. I don't think. I could be wrong about that. But a couple things happened towards the end of the month on July 25th. First of all, George Brett from the Royals, he hit for the cycle, which, if you don't know baseball, hitting for the cycle is getting a single, a double, a triple, and a home run all in one game, which is very, very rare. Very hard to do that. A triple is hard enough, on its own. Like, I think a home run is definitely more common than a triple these days, or any days really. And another one is kind of more infamous, involving the Reds, but nothing we did. We were in San Diego to take on the Padres, and Roseanne, the famous Roseanne national anthem, which everybody sees it as disrespectful. I just think she was just being her, trying to get attention, trying to be funny, it's up to debate whether she should have, and she spit, and everybody's like, she's spitting on the flag. Well, she was just, I could tell even as a kid that she was just mocking baseball players where they'd be spitting and scratching, all that stuff. But, like I said, I don't think she was trying to mock the national anthem. First of all, why do you book Roseanne to sing the national anthem anyway? Like, she's not like Gomer Pyle from Andy Griffith's show where he talks like a funny voice but then can like sing like opera music. It's Roseanne. You know what you get. They did it for a reason. But anyway, some baseball. NASCAR is pretty much dominated by Dale Earnhardt this year. He won 2 huge races this month. The Pepsi 400, which is the Daytona night race, and the Die Hard 500, which was the Talladega race. Those are the 2 biggest races of the year. And then in the middle, Jeff Bodine won the AC Sparkplug 500 at Pocono, which is another big race. But this was the year Earnhardt won his 4th championship. So like I said, big month for him, and probably the reason he won the championship. But we're going to end this episode by talking about a little bit of wrestling. Not a whole lot going on this month. WCW had their Great American Bash, which was their second one under the WCW name, and the 6th total one. Of course, they were under the NWA name originally, and it's still being run as an NWA show, basically. But this would actually be the last one because the following year they withdraw from the NWA. But the main event of this was Sting defeated NWA World Champion Ric Flair to win his very first NWA World title. That was in the main event, obviously. Obviously Sting, ultimate legend. Ric Flair did so much to help him with his career, and there's like reports about how his career or his first run was kind of underwhelming because I think he ended up getting stripped of the title because of an injury or something, but it should have been a massive run. But of course, WCW and NWA was always more known as the heel territories, where the heel was the champion. Flip that with WWF, which was the babyface territory. You had Hogan forever. Well, even before you had, originally you had, oh my God, why can't I think of his name? Bruno Sammartino with his massive title reigns, and then Bob Backlund had it forever, and then Hogan. Then they transitioned Ultimate Warrior. It wasn't really until like the later 90s and early 2000s when they had heels like with a longer run with the title. Anyway, WWF had their didn't have a pay-per-view this month, but they had Saturday night's main event number 27 on July 28th. Well, at July 16th, but it aired on the 28th. This was back in the days when they would tape everything and it would air later on. Hardly ever had live shows except for pay-per-views. And this was, of course, before Monday Nitro and before Monday Night Raw. But anyway, the Texas Tornado, who is, of course, Kerry Von Erich, made his WWF debut. He defeated Buddy Rose. But in the main event, WWF champion Ultimate Warrior retained his title. He beat Rick Rude by disqualification. And one other note from this month, there wasn't even any other title changes, but the Road Warriors, which became known as the Legion of Doom in the WWF, made their debut July 16th during a Wrestling Challenge taping. So the same day as the Saturday night main event was taped, they taped this too. They used to tape a lot of shows all at once. It was a cost-saving measure, really. But like I said, the Road Warriors, as they were known in NWA and WCW, they were part of a group called the Legion of Doom. But then when they went to the WWF, they just became known as their team name, the Legion of Doom. They didn't want to get sued by I think there was a Road Warrior movie or something. I think it was a Mad Max. I think I'd be completely wrong, but basically they didn't want to get sued for that name, so they just went with the Legion of Doom. But yeah, not a whole lot going on there in wrestling. But we're talking about next week. Like I said, like last week we're in July, this week we're in July. I do this randomly. Turns out next week we're in July 1992 to be exact. So we're going to jump ahead 2 years later, see how the world's going then. If you haven't checked out that bonus episode, check that out. I put a lot of work into that. I hope you guys liked that one. And Hope you guys like these podcasts. This one felt like it didn't take too long this week. Last week seemed like it dragged on. I don't know. Sometimes it's the opposite. I think one way and it goes the other way. Either way, whether it's a longer podcast or shorter, I hope you guys are enjoying this. Whether you're watching here on Facebook, YouTube, or listen to us on Spotify. But thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Tales from the 90s never die. In our hearts they testify. VCRs and mixtape spins. Wherever